This is the Distinctly Detroit podcast, the only pod that explores why one wants to be in the D. I am your host, Fyodor III, the director of the University of Michigan Detroit Center. Join me as I interview students, scholars, leaders, and innovators about living, working, and loving in Detroit. The Detroit housing market has become very popular to potential homeowners and investors across the country. The Detroit Land Bank owns a large portion of these properties and entrusts a select group of realtors to assist with the sale of these properties. Real Estate One is one of those realtors, and on today's episode of DDP, we have the pleasure of interviewing one of their top agents. He is a member of the $1 Million Club and will leave no stone unturned or to facilitate the needs of his clients. Obtaining complete satisfaction is paramount. He's president of the Hartford Men's United Ministry at Hartford Memorial Baptist Church and holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Michigan. And word on the street, he's known to be a decent spades and bid whist player. Ladies and gentlemen, Eugene Kelley II.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome, sir. Glad to have you on.
Glad to be here, sir.
Yeah. So, tell me, what prompted you to go into real estate?
Well, you know what? I've always wanted to be my own boss. And believe it or not, I actually had a job when I was in college or on summertime on college, and actually we had to go door to door selling, you know how it had the Sprint and the MCI and the, dime a minute and all that sort of thing? Yeah. So I was with a company called Cherry Communications. You've never heard this story, but it's Cherry Communications, and their goal, they were at 9.9 cents a minute. And so they grabbed us, and they said, we got to go to the people. So they got a bunch of us, and they took us in cars and dropped us off on Gratiot and 7 Mile in the hood. And we basically went in there, and we had to go door to door, encouraging folks to, get us to sign up for this long distance service. Well, that spent long days walking the streets of Detroit. And I was walking through the streets, and I started seeing abandoned house, regular house, people. And I had a conversation with a lot of people, and they're like, yeah, I wish somebody would do something with these abandoned houses. And I'm like, And I kept hearing about these programs talking about how you could buy a house for $1 and invest and all this sort of thing. And I started thinking with some of my friends, maybe I should invest in some things. So I started going down that path and rabbit hole and asking questions about that stuff. And then I ended up wanting to be an investor, but then found out somebody talked me into becoming an agent. And then I basically took the test, signed up with a company, ended up leaving that company, ended up going to Real Estate One, and then 23 years later, here I am.
Okay. So what do you like most about being in real estate?
The freedom. Well, a couple things. When I go to schools and I do the career days, I asked them, I said, well, guess what time I have to go to be at work? And they said, what time? I said, whenever I feel like it. I said, what time do I get off? Whenever I feel like it. Guess how much vacation I got? As much as I want. And I love that freedom, especially being a dad. When my kids were younger, if they ever called up and said, hey, there's an issue, I can get right there to the school. The other part is that the unlimited money, unlimited money that you can make from this. Basically, if you have the skill set, you can get out here and you can hustle and you can make a lot of money. You can make a couple dollars or you can make a lot, but it's as hard as you work. So what you put in, it's a true meritocracy is what I like about it. It doesn't matter about who you know, who you're best friends with, do you know the CEO of the company? Nah, if you get in here and ready to hustle and grind, you can get your money.
Okay. So what do you find to be your biggest challenge being in real estate?
Biggest challenge is some of the same things that I was just saying that I like about the real estate, the unlimited time. So now you have to focus. You have the unlimited freedom. You can do whatever you want to. And you can work as much as you want to or as little as you want to. Challenging wise is like you take the red, take the red pill and the blue pill with the matrix. With the red pill, hey, you show up to work, you work your 8 hours, and you get a check in 2 weeks. Real estate, it's all commission based. You got to eat what you kill. So if I go out there, I have to sell something. I have to make a sale and close that sale in order for me to eat. If I go out there and I don't have success, I don't eat. So I've always have to be on. Always have to be on fire. I have to be ready to go because again, as you get accustomed to a certain lifestyle, and you want to make sure that kids going to college, baby needs shoes and all that sort of. So it's not as consistent as it needs. Food, groceries, mortgage, all of that. It's not as consistent as we want it to be. But if you have a system in place and you have a good team behind you, it becomes more consistent. It's pretty good that way. So over my years, I've learned to be good to basically have a good enough skill or acquire a skill enough to do this job. So I'm doing pretty decent.
Okay. So what's the real estate market in Detroit like these days?
All over the place. As you probably heard, probably about a week ago, Mayor Duggan said that real estate values rose 40% over the last year. Now, again, real estate has always been fairly depressed. So is that a good thing? Are we going up really 40%, or we just got up to normal levels? So, but it depends on where you are. Downtown, down here, real estate is booming. Rents are highest than it's ever been, but I think that has something to do with the pandemic and lack of inventory. So the real estate market is going up, yes. Now, there's a couple factors to that. Is it truly the values are going up because we have better values and it's really true, or is the fact that we don't have as much inventory? As you know, from our economics classes, the lack of inventory is going to drive prices up. Well, after the pandemic, or when the pandemic happened, people started panicking, saying, you know what, I'm about to die. I'm going to go buy me a new house. So people started rushing out and getting new houses. Other people were staying put. Then the interest rates kind of dropped significantly, and so usually people turn their houses over every couple of years. But those that bought in 2019 or right in 2019 and 20 during the pandemic, they got historically low interest rates. So they're not ready to turn that property over. I bought, and I was able to get refinancing to a 2.75 interest rate. Now, I have about $80,000 of equity in my property, in my home. If I want to refi and pull that money out, I got to go to a 6%. I'm not going to touch it, nor am I going to move. So there's less inventory out here. So therefore, the inventory that's there, just like with the eggs and everything else, it's going to go higher. But the problem with Detroit is that it's disproportionate. Okay, you have Midtown, Midtown, Brush Park, Palmer Woods, all the traditional neighborhoods that are seeing an immense amount of growth. But then you have areas still, Brightmoor, Island View, some of these other outskirt areas that are right next to, the good parts, they're still not seeing the growth, and it's disproportionate, and there's still some, I guess necessarily redlining, where there's still some quote unquote hood where it's not seeing the amounts. You still see parts right down Jefferson and Deep East that you see rows and rows of streets without houses on them, right? And then, well, how are you going to basically stimulate the growth? One guy can't come in there and change it all because he's got a huge task ahead of him. But if you basically do kind of like that large scale mentality, like what you have with Penske and Illich and Dan Gilbert and all those guys, you can do something. What I've noticed is that Detroit is built like a wagon wheel. You've got 5 major thoroughfares coming out of the city of Detroit: Michigan Avenue, Woodward, Gratiot, Jefferson, and Grand River. All these streets start down in the middle of downtown, and they go everywhere, right? Michigan Avenue goes all the way to Chicago. Grand River goes all the way to Michigan State. Jefferson goes all the way, to to the shores. You got all these. So what I tell people, and you got 3 or 4 billionaires playing right in the middle of downtown, right? But everything that's going on is going to come off one of these arteries. So what I tell investors is basically start at one of these streets, drive to where you can afford it, stop, and stop, buy everything around it, and wait. Because eventually, it's coming out that way. And then, as you go out, they're trying to do this with the Q line, eventually get all that stuff out that way. You go out to the edge of 8 Mile, and you see a lot of that stuff coming back toward the downtown area. 8 Mile and Woodward, you got all that growth coming out there with the new Myers and all the infrastructure, you see that stuff pushing back, going that way. I've noticed that a lot of the amenities are starting to come back. Up until these Myers and things started popping up, Detroit didn't have good infrastructure. They didn't have, banks and grocery stores and parks and places where people want to, you got to have people being able to walk around and live. Well, you got to have stuff for them. You got to have a school. You got to have a bank. You got to have a grocery store. You got to have daycare centers. You got to have all this stuff other than just house. That's $600,000.
So me and my cousin realized we were looking for some computer equipment, and we realized there's nowhere in the city proper you can buy a printer or a computer or any computer peripherals or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just ridiculous.
Right.
And that was when that Staples downtown closed. That was like the only office supply store in the city, and it closed off Jefferson.
I played a game with my wife. So we live in Southfield, and I had to take her to work when we had one car, and she worked for Henry Ford down at one Ford place. So we would take the freeway out to Woodward and take Woodward down because it was quicker. So we would take 696 to 10 Mile in Woodward, and then we'd play a game. I said, I want you to count the number of banks and places to eat, restaurants to sit down in, not fast food, but restaurants to sit down in between here and the border of Detroit, right? Then once you get there, I want you to take the same thing, count the numbers from here, from the border of Detroit to your office. Now, we're talking about 2 miles from the 696 in Woodward to 8 Mile. I think we counted 6 places to eat and like 5 banks. From 8 Mile to 104 place, which is West Grand, I think we counted 2. Infrastructure.
City needs some more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So how have interest rates impacted the market? Because interest rates have been going up lately. Is that slow things down, or are people still out?
Well, it's we had a lot of inflation. Like I said, when I was supposed to be a business school major when I was at Michigan, but I could not pass macroeconomics because I couldn't understand this whole interest rate and all that sort of thing. But I get it now, right? Right after the pandemic, everybody was trying to buy, and basically houses were staying on the market. Like I had a running joke where I'd list a house, I put the sign in the yard. By the time I got back to my car, I had 3 offers.
Wow.
All right? And I was joking, but I wasn't. You had multiple offers. You had people going over asking price. You had people, sellers just house on the market for $200,000. They'd have three full price offers within the first hour. And the seller's sitting back, well, what else you got? I'll give you full price cash. Yeah, but what else you got? My firstborn kid, what else you got? No inspection, what else you got? I'm like, really? Right? Yeah. So it made it harder for first-time home buyers with regular FHA mortgages to get away with anything. Because now people, you prettiest girl in school, so you just pass it through. But I really love that. People were making... people were writing letters. I'm a single mom with 3 kids. Whatever. It was tough. But then the Fed said in the middle of July, this is crazy. Now we as realtors, we loved it. We just out here having a ball. We're telling us, and then in fact, our sellers got a little beside themselves. We tell them it's worth $200, and they said, okay, fine, and they'll get an offer in it, but they'd expect more. They're like. And then the thing about it is that the sellers stop fixing their houses up. Because like, let's just throw it out here. You don't have a roof. That's okay. They'll buy it. There's a hole in the floor. I don't care. So the quality started to diminish because the fact that sellers got beside themselves. And then buyers were going in without inspections and all that sort of thing. And they're seeing some of the problems now because they just were so desperate to get anything, and I'll pay it. I don't care. And then now they're like, why the hell did I do that? So the market had to correct themselves, right? So the Fed jumped out there in the middle of July, in the hottest part of the season, and raised those interest rates. Now, it was a problem because of the fact that we got used to, just like the gas prices, back when we were in college, gas was $1.85, right? Okay. And in different parts, it'd be somewhere else. Then it got all the way up to like almost $4.50 a gallon, right? And then we got used to it. And so when the gas prices started dropping back down to 330 and 340, we felt excited, but realized we were just paying 275 last year, but we were excited about 345. The interest rates are the same way. Interest rates before the big things started falling down, interest rates were at 6 and 7%, just maybe 5 years ago. But because they got down so low, we got used to it. So when they started coming back, and because again, 6 and 7% interest rates was the normal market. When they started falling down, we were in an abnormal market, which stimulated all of this growth and all of this buying and all this crazy running to the banks and getting all this money and buying stuff that we couldn't afford. The Fed is supposedly trying to correct it, but they did it so drastically, things almost went to a screeching halt. And people say, oh no, oh, wait a minute, it's bad. Not really. So after we got over the initial shock of, for the rest of 2022 and the interest rates going up and this, that, and the third, and people kind of panic and say, oh, we're going to a recession. No, we're not going into a recession per se. Just things are slowing down, and things are coming back from an extremely seller's market. They're coming back down to more of a normal market where you can actually negotiate, hey, 200,000, I'll give you 198. 185. Sellers are more willing to listen. Okay, if you do this, we'll do that. It's more of equal market. So it's not an extreme buyer's market, or we're going down to the recessionary levels. It's just the fact of the matter is that they had to move the needle back to the middle, and that's what we're coming closer to now. A buyer can actually go out and go spend 2 weeks and actually go back to a house and actually see that it's still there. Okay. Average market time on market was between 30 to 60 days in a normal market. The abnormal market was 2 to 3 days. So we're getting back to the middle. And basically, market is always moving. It's just not moving as fast. So it's not slowing down. It's just not moving as fast, if that makes sense. Yeah. So Detroit. Because the pricing in Detroit, even though it's going up, it's not going up. It's not as high as it is everywhere else. A $200,000 property in Detroit, in Metro Detroit, to a person in California, is a bargain. Yeah. To a person in New York, is a steal. So basically, you have individuals coming from out of state trying to invest and bringing all kinds of money. The problem that I see, this is Eugene Kelley talking, is that a lot of our out-of-state investors are getting deals that local folks should get. That's just my opinion. And the fact of the matter is that there are folks that are seeing diamonds in the rough from way out of state that you and I can't see right in front of our nose, and then we get mad when somebody else buys it, and I should have did that. Well, why didn't you? So there's a lot of different pieces to this market, and there's a lot of opportunity out here. You just have to grasp it.
Okay. Well, speaking of opportunities, that leads me to the next thing. You are one of the few realtors that's able to work directly with the Detroit Land Bank.
Yes.
For our listening audience that doesn't have any knowledge of the Land Bank, can you explain to them what the Land Bank is?
The Detroit Land Bank Authority is a organization that is connected to the city of Detroit, but is not the city of Detroit. It's its own independent organization, and they, just like it says, Land Bank. They acquire properties that used to be county foreclosures. Okay, Detroit Land Bank Authority is basically takes all the pretty much unwanted property that didn't sell at the Wayne County tax auction. All right, so it's usually the ugly of the uglies and what have you. But they grab it, they clear it off, and they pretty much hold on to it. And typically, before they started selling the stuff out to the individual public, that land bank would basically acquire the parcels and therefore put them together. So therefore, like if somebody wanted to do a big development like a Gilbert or something like that, most of that stuff is already in the land bank, so they can just acquire it all in one fell swoop instead of having to deal with 50 to 60 different owners. So that was one of the reasons they did that. But the problem with Detroit is that there's not enough contiguous land all in one spot to do just a huge major development. It's all kind of piecemeal. So the land bank helps individuals get around that and buy it at a one-stop shop. Now, some of the issues that we've seen as opposed to going to the difference between Detroit Land Bank and the county auction. County auction, You go down, bid on it, you get it. It's a quitclaim deed. Quitclaim is basically whatever my interest is, that's what you get. And there could be some back taxes, could be a lot of other issues, could be water. You have to deal with all that. You take all that on for the property. The Detroit Land Bank basically goes in, they take possession of it. The taxes go to zero, and they clean the property up. What I mean by clean it, not physically clean it, but clean up the title. Some people don't know is that there are, at least in the way we sell the properties, they'll get a title search, and you'll actually get a title policy. Now, for those that don't know what that means, that's insurance that you actually will own the property. Okay, there are two types of deeds. There's a couple types of deeds. There's a quitclaim deed. It's just a piece of paper that I can sign up here and say, here, you own this now. Now, it doesn't mean that other people can't claim that they own it, but I'm telling you, whatever interest I got, I sell it to you for this price. Can you take that to the bank and feel comfortable about it? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm your father and I've owned the house and I'm giving it to the son, same way like that's fine. A quitclaim deed will work. But a title insurance policy says, I'm giving you insurance saying that Gene Kelley owns this property, and he paid X amount of dollars for this, and this outside company is insuring that cost that you paid, that you're not going to have any issues with doing whatever you can do with this property. The land bank
read title insurance is a scam.
Well,
that very few titles ever get challenged in that regard, or people very rarely ever make a claim with title insurance. It's like less than 2%.
That's a good thing, because the thing about it, then it's done its job. So if they have it, if there's no claim against it, then it means it's doing what it's supposed to do. As opposed to now with quitclaim deeds, because of the pandemic, you've got plenty of deed fraud going all over the place, because anybody can write up a quitclaim deed. And unfortunately, because when everything started going to Zoom and people started checking things in person and things started going through the mail, stuff slipped through. There was a lot of deed fraud that happened over the last 3 years that people are trying to clean up, and now title companies are going back in and challenging those and trying to clean this stuff up now. There's a lot of properties that were stolen, especially from out-of-state landlords or absent owners, that were sitting through, that somebody just filed something and went through, and then they find out months later they don't own the property anymore and they got to go to court. Because people had title insurance, they didn't have to worry about that. So, okay. So they're not filing claims because it's doing the job it's supposed to do.
Okay. So the land bank has. So how many properties does the land bank have, and what are the options and opportunities for someone who's looking to work with the land bank?
I took Land Bank on as a client in 2019, and at that time they had 85,000 properties. Wow. As I understand it, and that includes vacant land, that included residential, commercial, and bundles. As it stands right now, they've gotten a lot. I think they have about maybe about 4,000 or 5,000 parcels left as far as structures left. And there's still a lot of vacant land, but I did hear that something came out in the summer that they were they're going to list all the rest of the parcels with the land bank between now and the end of the year. What I have learned inside of the land bank is that there's a lot of things that are being done strategically. Remember when we had the Super Bowl back in 2006?
Yeah.
And then Kwame did a good job of, coming around and hiding stuff and putting covers over things, and the homeless people got shipped out of town.
Moving the homeless people from under the underpasses.
Yeah, and all that. And then all of a sudden, all the abandoned buildings became pop-up liquor stores and party spots and all that sort of thing. Well, that all was done ahead of time. So now you look at this announcement that came last summer that said they're going to list all of the remaining parcels between now and the end of this year, right? What's happening next year?
The NFL draft.
Huh. Where's it going to be?
Downtown, right?
Really?
Okay.
Okay. So their draft sometime in April of 24.
Yeah.
You're going to put everything on the market by the end of this year. So it gets what? Sold
yeah.
And worked on, so you don't see all that blight. I mean, 1 + 2 = 6.
But there's not a lot of land bank property downtown, so.
I know, but you know, folks that are gonna drive out, they can't all stay downtown. They gotta drive out to other parts. They're gonna be in Detroit because that's all they know. They're not gonna know about the suburbs, so they're gonna stay somewhere, and somebody's gonna try to put an Airbnb somewhere around where the hotels are all full. Somebody's gonna be on Gratiot or Mac and Bewick somewhere trying to do Airbnb, and they gotta make sure it looks nice for all these hundreds of thousands of people that's gonna come into our city and look at our stuff. Again, can't predict it, but I'm just saying it's awfully ironic that it just happened to happen right after. You know, this was something in the newspaper that just went below the radar. It was just like a little. If you Google it, like, oh, you'll miss it, but it happened, and then like literally a month later, we get in the draft. So, 4 ways that the land bank sells properties: the auction. So you go online, DLBA, DetroitLandBank.org, go on the auction, for $1,000, whatever that is, you buy it, and you got to fix it up in a certain amount of time. What I've learned about the auction is that if you're a city employee, you'll get a discount on that. I think it's 50% off. And because I don't do the auction, I don't know enough about it, but that's one way. The other way is own it now. So just like some of these auctions, you know, you got to bid against people. There's actually a own it now price on there. Hey, you give me $3,000 right now, it's yours. Boom, you hit that button, you got it, right? That's another way. The third way is rehabbed and ready. So they partnered with Dan Gilbert, and some of these properties have, in certain neighborhoods, been picked up, rehabbed, and then refurbished, brought up to code, and then basically
Made it a turnkey.
made turnkey and then put back on the market with a real estate agent. And I want to say that Gilbert's behind that. The last way is the way we do it, which is the listed properties, all right? Usually those are the ugliest of the uglies and they need the most work. And you have the most hoops to jump through. Does that city discount work? No, not on these properties, all right? You have to basically, in order to buy a land bank property from me that I have listed, you have to basically go through and write a proposal pro forma. Tell us, it's like 8 questions, you know. Are you a Detroit resident? Do you have the money to fix up the property and acquire it? What are you gonna do with the property? Are you gonna live in it? Do you have any experience? Show me pictures of the stuff you've done beforehand to show that you've done it. Because the thing about it, some of these properties are so bad and the prices are very reasonable. We all well know that you're gonna run into a problem. You know, oh, I didn't know that pipe was sitting out there. We don't want you to walk away because these properties have been sitting for years and they're blight. We want you to clean this blight up. So we basically, at most land bank properties, what people don't know, you tell us how long it's going to take you to fix it up, and then you have to communicate with us. Now, do we hold you to that strictly? Yes and no. We basically tell you, hey, you tell us it's going to take 6 months, cool, keep in touch with us. Now, if you need more time, ask for it. We'll give it to you. We don't want the property back. But what we do, we make you sign a reversionary clause, meaning that if you do nothing, you just buy it, you just sit on it, do nothing, you get complaints and all that sort of thing, land bank has the right to take that property back and not give you a dime back on your money.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure you know what you're doing when you get into that. But again, I will tell you this little tidbit. We don't want the property back. So we're going to vet the heck out of you to make sure that you can actually do what you say you're going to do, because it's not doing us any good sitting there blighted because it's not on the tax rolls. It does not go onto the tax rolls until it's been bought by you and reassessed and it's a viable property. Now, all you really have to do is get a C of O. You don't got to make it look sexy. You ain't got to make it look pretty. Just fix it up enough so it can be occupiable.
Speaking of real estate jargon.
I'm sorry. In order for you to, all you have to do is basically bring it up to city code.
Get a certificate of occupancy.
Certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
Meaning that you have a city inspector come in after you fixed it up. They walk through, do their checkpoint, and say, you know what? Pass. Now, you could do it IKEA, or you can do it Home Depot, or you can do it DIY. We don't care, as long as it all works. Everything is in there, and it's livable. And then they'll sign off on the reversionary deed. They'll burn it, and it's all yours free and clear. You can sell it. You can live in it. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. But that's all you have to do. We want people out here, young developers and such, and people that with a little sweat equity to get their houses and buy them and do. Now, they started asking questions about, is there any financing for this? A lot of this stuff is cash. But there are a couple of banks out here that are actually financing some of this stuff. Liberty Bank, one of our 2 black banks in the city, they have a program that it's a rehab program. Now it's only for primary residents, but it's for the city of Detroit only. 1 or 2 family house resident, but you have to live in it. You can purchase it, and they'll give you money to fix it up on top of the purchase price. Loan amounts between $50,000 and $500,000. So you can buy as cheap as Brightmoor or Boston Edison, you know. And it's kind of like a construction loan, and they'll do up to 110% of the price.
They got land bank properties in Boston Edison still?
I have a vacant lot in Boston Edison on the corner of Woodward and Edison that is owned by the land bank that is ready to be sold if somebody will buy it.
Okay.
And it's actually a city block. It's 95,000. It's literally the corner of Edison and Woodward.
They want 95,000 for an empty lot.
It's a big lot. You can put like condos there. It's huge.
Okay.
It's like literally it's from Edison to the next block.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it's sitting, you know, and then there's $500,000 houses down the street.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what advice do you have for first-time home buyers out looking for a home? You know, what are things they should be aware of and knowledgeable about?
There's a lot of money out. Now there's a lot of money out here incentivizing folks to buy. All right. I just mentioned one, for depending on where you are, it's for the city of Detroit, there are a lot of incentive-laden banks, because again, you know, you got some of these banks that got in trouble for, you know, messing people up, so they got the TARP money and all that sort of thing, so now they got to pay the penalty, so now they're giving back, whether they want to or not, but they are. All right. So Chase has a program where they're giving up to $5,000 to $7,000 in down payment assistance. Bank of America is giving assistance, I think, up to $8,000. There's a Freddie Mac Fannie Mae program that I believe Rocket Mortgage has, and a couple other small banks. They're giving up to $10,000 toward down payment assistance and closing costs. So there are monies. I'm sorry, and also with that Liberty Bank thing, they give the money, and they also give you up to $15,000 grant money for your closing costs. So there's incentives out here for you to do what you got to do as far as financing. Basically, don't buy more than you can afford. It is better to be a homeowner now, especially post-pandemic, than it is to be a renter. The pandemic drove up rents to ridiculous numbers. And unfortunately, because some of the landlords got burned pretty badly, because, you know, with the pandemic, there was funding available for people to stay in their houses, but people took advantage of that and, you know, worked the system, so people just stopped paying their rent. Mm-hmm. So now the landlords lost out, so now they go back and try to rent again. You're going through all kind of heck, that whether it's worthy or not. So therefore, it's in your best interest to buy, because you don't have to go through, if you're pre-approved and you got the money, nobody's checking to see if you have pets. Nobody's checking to see if you have 5 or 6 kids or anything like that. Nobody's doing all that scrutiny on you, because, again, money talks. But in the rental game, people are checking your background. Where did you used to live back in the day? Do you pay your rental time? I'm a homeowner. I want to buy your house. Here's the money. You won the bid. Here you go. So it's a lot, and it's typically a lot cheaper, and it's a lot more security in that, because, again, with the pandemic being what it is, and landlords feeling the way they are, you get an eviction notice, you know, you a couple weeks behind, get out. As opposed to being a mortgage holder, there is all these different programs in place with the lenders. They don't want to get these houses back either, so they'll work with you, you know. They'll do forbearance. There's a lot of opportunities as a homeowner that you have as opposed to a renter. Okay. And it helps our economy.
Yeah. So what are some things that a new homeowner or a potential, you know, first-time home buyer, what are some things they should be aware of or pay attention in the houses? Like, what are some of the hidden problem areas in houses that people find, or issues that come up in inspections that people should pay attention to?
Number one, get an inspection. Get a licensed inspection company. somebody that's going to check the basement for water. You know, remember maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, you know, most of Detroit was underwater.
Yeah.
So the water has receded, but those houses are still out there. You know, so you look along the baseboards in the basement to see if you see any water stains. You know, and if you see the water stains 6 feet high, run. You know, because you know the furnace was underwater at one time. You're looking at your basic, your electrical, your furnace, your roof. You know, how old is the roof? You know, how old is the furnace? Does it have AC? You know, do you have any pests? Do you see any holes? You know, like termites or anything like that, something that can eat away. Also, we just took a class just this past week about the uses of the houses, what the houses used to be prior to, you know, you buying it. You know, there have been houses in the city that have been former meth labs or grow houses. A lot of these properties have been modified, you know, and because of that, they might have waste that you didn't know about in the backyard, in the filters or in the ductwork that could get people sick. And so you want to do a thorough inspection. And then the other thing too is that there's something called a seller's disclosure and a lead-based paint. Seller's disclosure is basically the seller telling you everything that is right or wrong with the house and that he knows of. You want to look at that and take that to your inspector and let them know, okay, they know this. All right, cool. You want to go through it a fine-tooth comb, but you definitely want to have an inspection clause in your house so you know whether or not you can go forward, something is fixable, or you got to run. And again, I tell people it's going to be my fault because I'm the agent and everything. Whether you love it or you hate it, you're going to blame me anyway, so you might as well love it. I ask a buyer when they're buying a house, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, is this house good enough for me and my family for the next 3 to 5 years? Number 2, is the price good enough for me and my family for the next 3 to 5 years? And number 3, is the neighborhood good enough for me and my family for the next 3 to 5 years? The reason I say 3 to 5 years because national average says that most people move every 3 to 5 years. Everybody gets a mortgage. Oh, 30 years forever. No, things happen. You could have been that one person in Maine that hit the big game the other day and won that $1 billion. You ain't thinking about me buying that little $200,000 house. We buying an island now. You know, you can get a job promotion. You know, we had a lady in here talking about she's going overseas. She don't know what she want to do. You know what? She's gonna, you know, we're gonna be a beautiful time. You know, we're gonna basically, you get a job promotion. Heck, you get married. You get divorced. You know, things happen. So people move all the time. So we want to make sure that you basically frame it in a small enough time frame that you can do that. So that's why I do that 3 to 5 years. Okay. All right? Because you're going to cuss every time you have to write out that mortgage note.
Yeah.
But you look out the window, at least I got my bay window. At least I got my swimming pool. Okay, I write that check out. You know, as opposed to, I got to pay this note. There that raggedy neighbor is right there. The one that keeps all the cars on the front porch. Well, you know. So, yeah. So that's what I always tell people.
Okay. I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Sure.
You are a member of Hartford Memorial Baptist Church.
Yes, sir.
One of the more prominent churches in the city, and you're heavily involved there. You're involved in different ministries. Tell us about your work at Hartford.
So I am president of Hartford Men United. That is the second largest group in the church. We have Hartford Women United. We have Hartford Men United. And so we have, in this ministry, again, Hartford Memorial Baptist Church is a large church. We're over 100 years old. And the work we have, especially it's coming up now in February, it's our Men's Month. We, both organizations, Hartford Women United and Hartford Men United, we're tasked with raising $100,000 every year. And so we do programming throughout our months. The women have September, the men have February. Don't know why we get the shortest, coldest month of the year, but it is what it is.
That's for me.
That's how we do, yeah. Right? So we are, our ministry, our theme is doing godly works. All right. Over the years, we've tried to hold ourselves accountable. We started a program called Grave Matters, meaning that a lot of us African Americans, men, you know, we have health challenges, we pass away. And we don't leave a will, we don't leave a trust. We basically sit back and we just dead, and we got all this asset laying around, and all the kids are fighting over it. And so what we did is said, you know what? Let's be accountable for ourselves. Let's put programming in place, teach people how to do trust, how to do wills, how to do the last rites and all that sort of thing. And we put a program together about 2 years ago, especially with the pandemic the way it was. Sorry. With the pandemic the way it was, basically we put things in place, and we put it online on our website. And so we revisit it every year, and we try to hold ourselves accountable, okay? And we teach people, hey, for example, with housing, do you know that oftentimes there's actually a deed called a ladybird deed that in Michigan, and in some other states, where you can put, some people, what people do, they will put, mom will put the kids on the house, right? Because, just make it easier. She'll just quit claim them onto the house, so now it's mom and the kids. Well, just doing that alone, that's a good thing in theory, but however, if she ever wanted to refi, she got to get all those different signatures from the kids. If she ever wanted to sell, she got to get the signatures from the kids. And because the kid has some ownership in the property, that kid could put a mortgage on the property and, hey, I need a couple dollars. And you finally try to go to sell it, Junior done put a mortgage on it and got you all jacked up. Well, a ladybird deed is this. It gives you the protection of being able to leave the property to your assets without all the encumbrances of the monetary issues. So basically, as a husband and a father, I can put a ladybird there. I can say, me and my wife own this house. And then I can say, upon my death, it goes to my son, then to my daughter, and to my other daughter. I can put that on. That's what a ladybird deed is. You can put everybody on the house in order of succession. And when somebody dies, you submit the death certificate, and the property automatically just transfers over to the person that's next in line on the house. No probate, no attorneys. It's just done. That's the best thing I've ever. And I just learned this 2 years ago. And I've been in real estate for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's in Michigan. So just knowing these little tips and things like that can avoid people losing their houses or avoiding all this fighting that people do. Oh, that's my brother, I love him.
Can help them avoid probate,
and then somebody right, and then somebody dies, and next thing you know, you at each other's throat for $5 in daddy's car. So that's one thing that we can allow, at least for property, because that's usually the largest thing that people have. Okay. We have 4 Wednesday night services where we bring in guest preachers. We're going to have a Men's Day banquet. One of the things that we're proud of is that we've adopted a school, Schultz Elementary School, and we have a program called Men of Presence. Men of Presence is basically, if you go to any school, most of your teachers are what? Women.
Yes.
We had a thing at the University of Michigan. We have a chat that I'm on, and they said, when did you see your first male teacher? And a lot of us, I was in college. Other than the gym teacher, right? And the football coach, your actual teacher in the classroom. My first male teacher in the classroom, I'm sorry, African-American male. There it is, okay. I'm sorry. African-American male teacher was Professor Oyama my freshman year at college. But again, there's a lot of, I'm focused that, yeah, African-American males. There's very few of us in our schools, in predominantly black schools, other than the teacher, the gym teacher, or the janitor, or the football coach. So what we did is that we decided to bring in African-American males into the school. 2 at the beginning of the school, lunchtime at the end of the day. Just to walk through the school. Just to walk through the hallway, shake hands, let them know there's a male presence in the school. And just provide one. And we've done that over the years in the past. We're going to revamp that. We're talking about possibly doing a daddy-daughter dance in the school. We just want to just engage ourselves because, again, there's the lack of African-American males around our kids, and we want to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. And aside from your work at the church, you're also heavily involved in the University of Michigan Alumni Association. What are you doing there?
I was once the national chair of the University of Michigan Black Alumni Association. I'm now currently the Detroit chapter chairperson for University of Michigan Black Alumni. And so basically, Metro Detroit, so basically southeastern Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that includes Ann Arbor, Detroit, most of this side of the area. I've been involved with them for almost 20 years now. I guess it's about time for me to retire soon. But we've done a lot of good programming. We have something called, one of our signature events is called the Urban Tailgate, which is basically the Michigan State game. So the Michigan Black alum and the Michigan State Black alum, we get together and we watch the game. And as of a couple of years before, we were, on the bottom end of that, and then Harbaugh came in and finally got us a win last year. Mel Tuck came and kind of stole a couple from us, but we're doing pretty well with that. And we're actually going to be having our 25th Urban Tailgate this year. Okay. So we're going to try to blow it out, location TBD. But typically what we do is since it started here, we typically like to it's urban, so we try to stay in Detroit, and we try to find a facility that is either black owned or black managed to have it. Now we started off at Floods, and then we outgrew Floods, then we moved over to Steve's, Soul Food downtown, the Key Club. We kind of outgrew that, and then we tried at one time the Corner Ballpark, which was very large during, right after the pandemic. So we're in the process of finding a spot, especially for the 25th, that's really going to show up and show out, and we're going to have a great time this year. I'm also involved in homecoming. So I'm one of the homecoming chairs this year. So we got a lot of things good planned for homecoming as well. So I've been quite a part. And then we have a new alumni director, Corey Paulding, that is going to assist us as well. And we're looking forward to working with her and getting a lot of good things done. We're going to try to do more work down here at the University of Michigan Detroit Center to basically do some recruiting, helping our young people, get involved with Michigan, get them exposed to Michigan early. Because again, our enrollments are not as high as they need to be. Our percentage of African American students in school has probably less than it was when we were there, and we want to do something about it. We want to expose a lot of our young people to the African American leaders that we have around the Metro Detroit area. I feel that's part of my job as well, to let them see that the leaders and best are right there under their noses.
That's one of the reasons why we got you on the pod today. Okay, we're going to transition to what we call our lightning round now.
Okay.
And this is where we ask all our guests the same series of questions just to get the diversity of answers.
Okay.
And the first and it's mainly about kind of how you live and operate around the city of Detroit. And the first question is, what's your Coney Island order?
My Coney Island order?
Yeah, what do you order when you go to the Coney?
It's one of two things. It's 2 Coneys, everything on its side of fries, or super milk, side of fries.
Okay. Faygo or Verner's?
Faygo.
Okay. Who's your favorite Detroit athlete?
Ooh, Zeke.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Isaiah Thomas. I don't
People
know
who know.
Okay.
Who's your favorite Motown artist?
Ooh. Aretha.
Okay. Favorite place to go in the city?
Favorite place to go to the city? Look, I'll say, first thing I think of is my church, but.
Hey.
Okay, my church.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Okay,
fine. And then last question is, where can we find you?
Where can you find me? My office. I'm with Real Estate One, 29100 Northwestern Highway, Suite 110, Southfield, Michigan, 48034. Email, Kelley Group, KELLEY GROUP, Kelley Group 17@gmail.com. I don't remember my Instagram handle, but I'm on there somewhere. I'm also on LinkedIn. I also have a website, www.realestate1.com/GKELLEY. Phone number, 248-506-1257. If you Google me, Gene Kelley or Eugene Kelley II, you'll see me on there. Most of my listings have YouTube pages. With Real Estate One, we're the largest real estate company in the state, so we have a lot of influence. We own other companies as well, so I'm out here. And like I said, I'm one of 5 brokers that work directly with the Detroit Land Bank.
That is about the most thorough where can we find you we've ever gotten. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Eugene Kelley II, realtor extraordinaire, U of M super alum, man of God and purpose. And we really want to thank you for coming on. And we want to thank Slows Barbecue for their continued support of our podcast. You can find Slows in Corktown off Michigan Avenue, their sit-down restaurant, or you can find their Slows to go off of 2nd Avenue, right around the corner from the Detroit Center. We want to thank everyone for listening to the DDP. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, University of Michigan Detroit Center. And we want to thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you for listening to the Distinctly Detroit podcast. This is a production of the University of Michigan Detroit Center, and you can find us anywhere you get your pods. Please rate, review, and subscribe. This podcast is directed and produced by Marlon Franklin, edited by Taylor Henniger, with writing contributions by James Neely and Leah Allen. Thank you for listening.